Here's an example healthcare application backend. And for this example, we're going to use some relational tables. The first table is for patients. There's a table for doctors. There's appointments table. And then there is a table for lab reports for patients. We're going to use these relational tables to first build a JSON duality view and then show how we can modify the data using the duality view. So first step, let's build the JSON duality view from the patient's perspective, then execute it. Here we can see a new JSON duality view. We can retrieve the rows of the JSON duality view, which shows that each row is a JSON representation of the patient. Now, let's try to introduce a new patient 42 into directly in the JSON duality view. The insert statement is not just adding a new patient, but also an appointment with a pre-existing doctor in the database. So let's execute this command, and we see that there's an error. And this is because the JSON duality views by default are read-only. So how do we solve this? For this, we need some modification tags on our JSON duality view, which will allow modification. So for example, we want to allow modification on the patient level information, also for appointments. And we should allow also users to change or add information regarding the lab reports. However, for doctors' information, we do not want the user to add a new doctor from the patient's perspective. Let's execute these changes. And now what we see is that the new patient's duality view will allow modification. So for this, we re-execute the insert statement, and we see that is now successful. To verify the modification, let's query the patient's duality view. And we can see that we can retrieve the new patient that has been added with a single appointment. But not only that, even the relational tables can be queried to see the new information. For example, this was the patient, and we can see the new patient has been added. We can see appointments, and we can go up, and we can see the new appointment has been also added. So these were examples from the patient's perspective. Now let's take another example from the doctor's perspective. Let's make a new duality view on the same table, but from the doctor's perspective. So the root level information comes from the doctor's table, but it shares the same appointment tables that were also used for the patient duality view to retrieve the appointments for that particular doctor. So let's execute this. And we see there is a doctor duality view as well. If we retrieve the new rows, we can see that there is a duality view is working. Now let's try to zoom in on the doctor with the ID 1. What we see here is that the doctor with ID 1 has appointments, has 3 appointments, but it also has an appointment with the newly added patient that was added from the patient's perspective. So this is a very powerful feature of JSON duality view, that because it is backed by relational tables, you get relational tables, relational integrity for free. So any changes you make in your base data is reflected transparently to any view that you make on top. Thank you.